All right, hello, good afternoon, everyone. The last time I spoke at Stack was at the first conference, so that must have been like 5 years ago. So I'm glad to be back. My name is Kendrick. I'm the Group Chief Information Officer of the Ministry and Trade and Industry. Right, so I think some of you may wonder, what does MTI do? Right, so MTI is responsible for Singapore's economic growth, right, and we do that by attracting good investments, helping our companies to grow, right, negotiating trade agreements with other countries, looking after our supply chain, right, and our energy and carbon commitments. Right, so MTI has a very diverse group of statutory boards. We have 9 of them. And I work with the CIOs in terms of the digitalization to support the economy. So we've got EDB, who brings in the investments. Right, we have Enterprise Singapore, who promotes and helps the local companies grow. Right, we have STB, looks after tourism, and there are 6 others. So you can see it's very diverse. Right, so today I will be talking to you about GoBusiness. Right, but before I begin, I just want to have a show of hands. Who has heard of GoBusiness? All right. What do you think GoBusiness does? Anyone? Okay, so GoBusiness was originally conceived in 2019 to be the one-stop shop, right, for all business interactions between businesses and government. All right. But if I ask you again, if you were to start a company, which agency or which agency's website comes to mind? ACRA, all right? If you were to hire workers, right, and you need to bring in foreign workers, which agency comes to mind? MOM, right? If you have to file your corporate taxes, which agency comes to mind? IRAS. All right, so there seems to be an issue, right, between the vision of a one-stop shop and some of the answers that I've received, right? All right, but anyway, GoBusiness, as it stands today, right, is a platform that has 114 licenses, over 100 financial assistance schemes, and we attract 9 million visitors a year, and we support about 240K G2B transactions. Right? If you go to the website today, you will see that there are many things. Right? I think the most prominent is how to start a business. There's licensing, there's government assistance schemes. You will see training there as well. You will see helping to grow IP networks. So it's a lot of things. And I think as we reviewed what GoBusiness does, we realized there was a need to try to focus, right, on what can be achieved digitally end-to-end, right? Because I think we were doing quite a lot of things all at once. So what I want to do today is to share with you the refreshed product vision for GoBusiness, as well as what I think are some of the architectural shifts that need to take place for this to happen, right? And also to get feedback from you, especially those who develop agency licensing systems or agency grant systems who need to interface with us. So I tend to take about 10 minutes to 12 minutes, and then hopefully we have about 3 minutes for Q&A. All right, so from the earlier reaction I got from the audience, it's quite clear that GoBusiness needs to complement what we call the Big Four, right? The ACRA, the IRAS, the CPF, right? And rather than try to be that one thing for everyone. So I think one of the things we have done recently was that we have shut down start the business through GoBiz, right, and point people all to ACRA, right, so that there's no overlap, there's a clear single door, right, and we do not duplicate resource. However, users tell us that they still see GoBusiness as a trusted source of authoritative information about dealing with government, right, because no other agency consolidates all this information in one place. So that's something that we will continue to do. Now, this is a very high-level interaction diagram of how things work in GoBusiness. Right? So you can see that for GoBusiness, we interact with agency systems, as I said earlier. Right? So there's a real need to ensure that we do this well for the 100 over licenses that we have on board. If you were at the National Day Rally or you heard National Day Rally, PM Wong talked about simplifying and reducing regulatory burden of agencies for businesses, right? So reduce number of licenses they need, simplify licensing requirements, so forth, right? And so for now, we have about 40% of government licenses on GoBusiness, right? We intend to grow this to 80% over 2 years, right? And to do this, right, there will be a need to ensure that the way we work with agency systems is as streamlined as possible, right? At the same time, there's a need to simplify, right? 100 schemes, is that too many, right? And potentially have as few schemes as possible. And for GoBiz, given that we are a 5-year-old platform, there's been also quite a bit of tech debt that we need to address. All right, so let's talk about what I think are some of the things we need to work about. I don't know if my team is in the audience, but they may or may not agree with me, but we can have a conversation about this. All right, so firstly, I think from a user experience perspective, we need to focus on what the businesses need, right? So for example, if I'm applying for a license, I should be able to find out quite easily for my business what sort of license requirements I need, locate that particular license, apply for it, right? Track the status, and when it's finally approved, know that I can proceed, right? Today, the features tend to be built around specific areas rather than a user journey, right? So that'll be one thing that we will need to address, right? So today, it's organized by login, pre-login, post-login, very interesting. I think to me, login is a step in the journey, right? So we need to map the journey. We should organize the product by license and financial products and treat login as really as just one step in the journey. Now, in terms of developer experience, we have a developer portal today, right? developer.gobusiness.io, right? If you go there today, you'll see that we have documentation. But I think when you think about the developer experience, you not only want to know documentation, right? You want to be able to onboard to the API, right? Get your credentials. You want to be able to test. You want to know what is the outcome of that test, right? When the API is live, you want to be able to make configuration changes as your application changes, right? So I think there's a need to move from documentation only, documentation and self-service. I think if you use Stripe or if you use AWS, or even if you use SingPass, that's the experience, right? So when we built the SingPass developer and partner portal, when I built that thing with my team, but we focus a lot on bringing the self-service to the table, and we hope to do the same for GoBusiness. And I think it's the same for our partners, right? So you imagine that when you process licenses, there'll be forms to fill, right? So GoBiz is on the partner end is essentially a form builder, right? So there's a need to ensure that our business partners, agency users, can configure the forms themselves. They can change the forms if the licensing requirement changes. They can change the validation rules on the form, right? If the requirement changes as well, and be able to do this in real time, right? If we have to keep doing it for the users, whenever there's a change, we will not be able to scale, right? Definitely not be able to double, definitely not be able to triple the licenses we need to bring on board. In terms of data model, maybe I have a show of hands. Who has heard of SGDRM? Okay, 1, 2. All right, so SGDRM is actually the Singapore Government Data Reference Model. Think of it as an internal government data dictionary, right? Another way to think about it is that it's just a set of data standards within government. And because if you look at the interaction diagram, you will realize that this is all about data sharing, right? Sharing of license status from agency to GoBiz, sharing of license application details from GoBiz to agencies, right? So it's important to have a standard data reference model. Currently, the SGDRM is optional unless you handle core data. But I think for data sharing to happen effectively, we should just go ahead and adopt what is the standard, right? And that will reduce a lot of the haggling and wrangling that happens whenever we need to do an integration. In terms of data hierarchy, it's something similar, right? You will notice that in the license process, a lot of data gets passed around between systems, right? So if you don't really have a clear idea of who is the reader or who is the writer, and you segregate it by subset of data, then you run into a situation where data is continuously validated, and sometimes people think they need to validate because they think that they are the writer. Okay, in my days, it's called master and slave, but today it's not kosher to say this anymore. So every agency needs to be very clear for which subset of data I am the reader and I'm the writer, so that we don't have validation downstream that causes license applications to fail, which is one of the challenges we are facing today. Right, and lastly, it's about APIs. So today we already adopt an open API approach, which is good, right? Because it means that we use internet standards. It means that any competent developer will be able to write and talk to the interface. I think what we want to think about now is because a lot of the agency systems these days are moving on to SaaS products, right? Salesforce, OutSystems, for example, right? We want to think about whether we want to include connectors, out-of-the-box connectors, right? So that the integration doesn't need to be custom anymore, right? And for agencies using some of these common SaaS products, they can come on board a lot more quickly, right? So some of the ideas in terms of where we need to move to. All right, so we have 3 minutes. All right, so at this point, I'm going to just open the floor to you for questions, if any. All right, if you are too shy to ask questions, I put a QR code up here, right? So basically, the whole idea is like, good developers, let's do a retro. This is my 6 months into this role, right? So if you have worked with us before, if you have any feedback, please scan the QR code and let us know what you think. What's your experience in the past? And do you have any suggestions for us as we think about the technical vision moving forward? All right, so the QR code, I'll leave it up there. All right, and if not, then I end a little bit early. And I thank you for coming today. Thank you.